presentation for the Asia Pacific Amusement and Attractions Industry Forum. I just want to highlight that in September 10th to 12th this year in Guangzhou, we have the 17th GTI China Expo. So keep that in your diaries. Thank you to all of the speakers and panelists over the last 3 days. We thank you for being here, for sharing your expertise, your knowledge, and for also being very nimble and working with the space and the challenges that we've had here for the first time that we are conducting this forum. Right now, we're about to hear a really good, healthy topic that we all need to hear about. It's about leveling up with intellectual property licensing, and specifically how to transform your FEC and arcade business. We have an expert of all experts leading our presentation today, Eric Lee. Eric has spent a lot of years working with intellectual property, and that's been his sole focus in his career. Eric has worked with Turner and Warner Brothers as an executive director, and now has stepped outside of representing the IPs and is on his own, and he holds the hands of operators and IP and helps them to understand how to best set each other up for success. So Eric, come on forward. Thank you for leading us today. And Eric has a wonderful panel, and you'll agree that this panel and Eric are probably have the best 3 smiles in all of Southeast Asia when you see them sitting there together. So Eric, over to you. Please introduce your panel.
Okay, thank you, Sean. What a wonderful introduction, better than what I could have done myself. I do have a wonderful panel. I'm going to bring them up straight away and then we can start with a bit of an introduction. So first up we have Natalie Chan from Hasbro, Director of Location-Based Entertainment. She has helped bring to life many IPs such as Transformers, Monopoly and Nerf. Secondly, we have Kelly Costin from the licensee side, former Hasbro, is Vice President of Play Culture and is working on rolling out Nickelodeon FECs across Southeast Asia, having seen tremendous success of their launch in China. So, round of applause for our panel. Quick fact, we're all from Hong Kong, by the way, so great representation from Hong Kong. It feels a bit odd that we're all flown from Hong Kong, come to Malaysia to have a chat about IP, but hopefully you'll find some good insights from our conversation today. Why don't we have a quick introduction of you guys before we kick off the session? Maybe Natalie, we start with you. Would you mind taking us a little bit behind the curtain about what you do and one thing about your job that might surprise our audience today?
Okay, hi everyone. I'm from Hasbro. So a little bit background of myself. So I work in property side before for all the marketing event stuff, and then later on I go into the entertainment industry and working on all those kind of exhibition and things. And at a certain point is that like Hasbro is asking for, hey, I realize we might able to do IP licensing in store or maybe LPE. And by the way, what is LPE at that time? And I was like, oh, seems like fun. I mean, what is LPE? And then they say, oh, it's a location-based entertainment. And it's the first time that I know about this industry, about all the theme parks and all the things. And I think, oh, I've been working in the exhibition field for a very long time. And I thought, why not? I just try to go into this industry and bring in the IP into this industry. So lucky enough is that around 11 years ago, I joined Hasbro to start up the LPE department, especially covering APAC region. And then I would say it's a very lucky timing because in the past decade, I would say there is a very high growing demand in the LPE industry to make use of IP to create a more immersive environment because the industry is very good in all sorts of technology and hardware to bring in the amusement experience to the consumer. But starting from like Universal Studio, they are using more IP to do the theming. People are getting, I would say, like anyone haven't been to Harry Potter land, right? So you are having that emotional connection to the site rather than having a pure excitement from the ride alone, right? So in the past decade, I would say is this kind of like 2.0 era is thriving. And lucky enough for me to join, I mean, in the past decade. So yeah, so I would say is that I grow with the industry, on especially on the IP field.
Thank you, Natalie. So Kelly, you went from licensor to licensee, former Hasbro and colleague of Natalie. I feel like we have a bit of a habit of thinking that we know how licensees think when we work on the licensor side. Now that you've popped over to the other side, can you tell us a bit more about your life today and something that you've learned about being a licensee?
Sure. They say you won't be able to feel what it is truly like unless you walk on their shoes. That's definitely true. It's been bitter and sweet at the same time because I miss working with the Hasbro team. We had an amazing team. But the sweet part is, you know, I'm able to work with my current company now, work with the IP owner and our designer to create a project from scratch. So it's basically from, you know, concept design to schematic drawing to, you know, like general contractor drawings. So it's a lot of things going on and it's been challenging and very good at the same time.
Amazing. So when we put this panel together, Andrew and I had a really good conversation around IP in this region. And when you look on the show floor, very little IP you see here. And so for me, it feels like there's an opportunity. If you go to some of the bigger international trade shows, you see IP everywhere. And having had some conversations with some of the people here, they don't even know what IP licensing is. They're asking, oh, how do I speak to an IP? One example is they have an experience that is around an IP that isn't licensed, and they were contacted by the licensor to say, hey, by the way, you're using our IP, did you know that's illegal? And they did it. So hopefully our session today is going to be a little bit more educational, and we're going to be able to offer some insights. So maybe it's a good segue to the first question. Why IP licensing? So I'm going to start with you, Natalie. Why have Hasbro decided to pursue LBE licensing? And maybe a couple of follow-up questions. What are you looking for in the licensing? Like, what should they be thinking about before they approach you if they're interested? And are there any misconceptions around IP licensing?
So I think why Hasbro is going into the IP licensing field is because actually Hasbro, we do have a lot of brands, and I think everyone knows about Hasbro is the world #1 toy brand. But in fact, actually we hold more than 1,500 brands in our bucket. So one of the things is how can we make use of this brand? Are we using this brand for the toy alone, or are we make it into a franchise, having more content, for example, like movie, animation, and why not experience, right? So that's why we are starting from 20 years ago and starting from Transformers. We are creating different sort of storytelling content that includes comics, movies. And then around 15 years ago, as you know, the Universal Studio, we work with them on in Hollywood, Orlando, and also Sentosa. We create a Transformer ride tour. And that opened up, I mean, the whole franchise map for the brand. And we realized that actually it's good that on an offline basis, we use our brand to create a more experiential a thing for the consumer so that they can build up their emotional connection and also have a place for them to build up their bonding with their friends and family to create a wonderful memory. So we start off all these kind of, using IP in LV projects. But why is it licensing? And why is it not, like Disney or Universal with directly investment? The point is there is a lot of expertise knowledge that you need to be involved in developing a successful, like, immersive experience. And I would say Hasbro is experts in creating, in manufacturing toys. And we are experts in creating storytelling content. But how about filling in the gap on putting these contents and brand into the experience side? And also how to operate their experience. This is not what we are good at. So why not we are working with experts in that industry and doing a licensing business, right? So that's why we are doing licensing. And that leads to the question on a follow-up question on, so what we are expecting from our partners. So as we say, we want to focus in investing on our brands and also the story of it, the content of it. So while you are very carefree about the brand awareness in the market, we want to find someone that is really expert in the industry. And when I say expert in the industry, is of course having an experience in operating or developing a content. You know, everyone sitting here is an expert in the industry. You know that creating a album project is not saying I'm good at getting investment, I'm good at operation, or I'm good at design alone is fine, right? It's all rounded. So we need someone that is at least know what they're doing, know whom to find, and having an experience in creating something before. And in particular, I would say is having experiences dealing with international IP is more preferable. I will say very frankly is some of our partners, because this is such a high requirement, it's not every partner is having to deal with international IP before. So a lot of the project, I would say, is small scale project. We work with partners that is not dealing with IP before as well, which we do have our we have a team of like 40 people at the back end for the global Hasbro LBU team. So we will work hand in hand with them to discuss with them how to use our IP into creating the whole, starting from the concept development up to like operator side. How the staff is going to deal with the customer, including our brand tournament. All this we are working on hand in hand with them. So yeah, this is our expectation.
That's great. So one of the misconceptions I think is worth mystifying today is that IP is always expensive. You always have to work with the biggest IPs. You really don't. I think it's always interesting to engage in a discussion, to have a conversation with the IP if you feel like there's an opportunity, and the likes of Natalie and other IP owners would be happy to have a conversation to see where opportunities lie. In terms of why, an interesting story, one of our former licensees when I was at Turner, the reason why they approached us is because they just like the IP. But actually, that alone doesn't make business sense. So I think this is maybe a question for you, Kelly. I assume it's about the numbers, right? As a business, you're really there to make financial sense of this. Working with IP, it can be an expensive undertaking. There are creative approvals you have to think about. There are royalties you have to think about. So why not just do your own IP and avoid those sorts of complications?
Yeah, I think for us, the magic of using IP, it's a popular IP, is that first of all, they have a really great awareness in the market, and also they have a huge fan base that we could leverage on. So we don't have to spend lots of money on, the marketing for, our attractions. So second of all, they have a lot of ready-to-use content and storytelling components that we could basically adopt into our attractions. So which will save us a lot of time and effort.
So when you think about IP, how do you go about identifying and selecting the right IP for your experience? What factors are you thinking about?
I think for us as a design and a master licensing point of view, for us that the factor that we will need to consider on choosing the right IP is the demographics. I think also the budget wise, and if this IP choice is suitable for this project or not. And we need to take into careful calculations to consider if we wanted to put this IP into our project. Yeah.
And so by having an IP, does it typically allow you to price with a slight premium compared to a non-IP, and does it attract people to your experience?
Yes, definitely. And then also for our local partner, they were able to have a premium locations or have a better deal on getting the rental price. And also it's much easier for them to get the exposure and also for them to get the investment for their project for sure.
So from an IP owner perspective, Natalie, how do you help your licensees adapt your IP to their projects in their local market? For example, when it comes to telling the right story or localization, like what's the process that you typically follow?
Okay, so when we are talking about, what IP, because as I say, we have multiple IPs under Hasbro, and then how are we going to incorporate the IP into each of the projects? So before we confirm what IP to go into any project, actually we will explore, on different perspectives. So of course, what's the project about and all the things. And basically, we will try to understand about, what is the target audience for that attraction. Because some of the attraction, for example, is right now, social gaming is very popular. So for example, it's kind of like social gaming. That is for more like young adults. And versus like what we are working with Kelly is Peppa Pig Play Cafe. So Play Cafe is for kids. So basically, it's for kids. Then, on the brand proposition side, we need to find out which brand, for example, whether it's gender focused, it's for girls or for boys, whether it's what sort of age range, it's for young adults or for toddler or for young kids, right? And then afterwards, we also consider about the creative flexibility on each of our brands, because some of the brand, for example, like character brand, you can do all sorts of theming, you can provide a lot of storytelling. But there is another set of brand, it's kind of like non-character brand. For example, like Monopoly. So I guess everyone sitting here played Monopoly before. So when you think about Monopoly, are you thinking about the old guy? Or actually you're thinking about the board, right? So I would say, for me, definitely is the board. And for a lot of my clients, they get in Monopoly because of the board. So that kind of approach is not using a character to attract people. It is using the idea of gamification, and everyone as they're very familiar with the Monopoly board, they know how to play with it, so they use the Monopoly brand, right? So in that sense, we can do a lot of different creative approach in putting into the experience. And the next thing is more on the brand sustainability. So some of our brands, this year we are going to have movie. For example, like just having a promotion as well. Next year we are going to have a Peppa Pig movie and releasing in China. So whether it's a good timing that we use, the brand. You may say yes, but just think about on your project. if your project is just a short term, like a ticketing exhibition for next year, definitely get in paper now because we are going to have a movie for next year. And for example, next year, next year is the year of pony, right? Why not get in My Little Pony in the market for any, countries that with the Chinese community, right? So this is something that you might consider. But if you are building up a theme park or FEC that is operating like 5 years or even for 10 years or more, then you need to think about it. Is it having a movie just next year is the solution for you? Maybe a solution for you for opening, but how about afterwards, the rest of the 9 years? If I cannot tell you that, I'm sorry, I just have a plan for next year, and a year after I do not know whether I have a toy release or not, then I think you need to have thought about it, whether this brand is suitable for you or not, right? So I just get in some of the project samples just for sharing purpose. This is an example on a Monopoly life size that we have in UK. So it's just an example on as I said, it's not about the old man, the character. It's about the board. So you cannot see a lot of character being put on it, but people going is doing very well in UK and having a very high score on all the OTA platform. The reason behind is people know about how to play Monopoly, and they always want to make it a life-size game. So they go there to play like a room escape, a group of like 6 people per session, and play for like 90 minutes. And then talking about, we have a bunch of brands that is for kids, and then we just group them together and we work with Kingsman to create this kind of plan and play school ideas. So this is a learn through play, like edutainment kind of like FEC content. So we make use of those brands, including like Play-Doh. You know, Play-Doh is the Play-Doh play. And then we create like a Play-Doh word thing where you can use the clay to make a stop animation experience inside the FEC. And then for this, I just want to show, this is a very simple merry-go-round concept, but this is more like a light scale thing, which is easily to duplicate around the market. So we have like more than 15 this kind of merry-go-round thing within the China market. And each of them is just kind of like 5 minutes ride with a renminbi $35 per ride. But actually this is doing quite good. They are increasing the number to more locations right now because during this period of time, economy slow down, retail is suffering. So people are looking for some kind of entertainment solution within shopping malls. They're looking for FEC type of thing, but at the same time they are looking for smaller things as well. So therefore, a lot of like arcade games, coins machine thing is blooming in those shopping malls. But one of the things is people do not want coin machine alone. They want something that is a bit bigger and with the IP as well to attract people. That's why we work with this licensing in the market to create this kind of like merry-go-round project in the shopping mall. Yeah, and then another non-IP one, the Nerf one with Nerf Blaster. We do have a theme park in Brazil. So the whole, Nerf area is using the Nerf Blaster as the design concept. And then the last one, because I just noticed here a lot of exhibitors is on kind of like arcade machine stuff. So we also work with arcade machines to create some IP themed content. But again, it's not about the story and character alone, which we have Transformer arcade machine, which is based on the Transformer story to create the game. But also we have a lot of Hasbro gaming piece apart from Monopoly, which is like Twister, which is like Connect for all this kind of stuff. We just use this gamified mechanism to incorporate in all these kind of arcade machines. So far actually this This machine is quite well received. And just an update on this. Because of all this, so we group all these kind of machines together. In US, New Jersey, we just opened up a project called Game On. So kind of like having all these kind of machines and put it like a big Hasbro arcade center. So yeah, just a showcase on what we have been doing kind of use our brand into this experience.
Yeah, thank you for that, because what I like about the slides that's been shown is it's not just big theme parks that can do IP licensing, arcades, smaller rides, but also do IP licensing, which I think is very relevant for our audience and our exhibitors here today. I want to hone in a little bit on Southeast Asia, and also a topic that is a bit of a white elephant. We don't like talking about it. As a representative of both IP and people looking for IP, I would love to say that every project is a success, but sadly it's not the case. And so I want to maybe dive a little bit deeper into some obstacles that you may have seen in your careers, and how have you overcome them? We want to be optimistic, right? As a saying, you have failures on the way to success. So maybe Natalie, we'll stick with you first. Have you got any real life examples of how you have encountered obstacles, failures, and how you've overcome them?
A bunch.
That you're able to share today?
I think everyone here who operate a tractor recorder, you can write a story. I always laugh at it. Every project is kind of my story. You might think that we are just licensor and we just approve all the things and get the license fee, that's it, right? That's not the case. At least for my company, it's not the case. So we have a project management team. We really work hand in hand with the project owner, from the creative development up to like the daily operation. We are still having like regular updates and then discuss on how to improve the performance. So I would say is I love it is every project I can write a storybook behind it. No matter it's just, I would say even if it can open, it's a success already. Because a lot of projects before it can be open, it's bad. So unfortunately, it is that, right? So and not really into every story. It will take hours to discuss about it. I would say if talking about some of the failure case and into the success, I would say one of the interesting things is, for example, like Nerf. So Nerf is a blaster brand. So it's a world first, the number one toy gun brand. But for us, we cannot say it's a gun, it's a blaster anyway. So a lot of learning when we decide to use Nerf into our experience. Why is that? Because, by the way, why people are paying money to use Nerf? Nerf is not a character. But just for you to know, on the internet, on the YouTube, if you search Nerf, there is more than 200,000 YouTube video about Nerf. So Hasbro, we do not have such many marketing dollars to create 200,000 YouTube videos. That 200,000 YouTube video is all user-generated content. And by this, I just want to tell you is that how many fans, and if you have a son at home, do tell me if they play Nerf. Because Nerf basically is a mask. In the toy gun field, right? Boys they want to buy Nerf. That's why a lot of our partners have seen the value of Nerf, and that's why we work with them on creating Nerf experience. And we do have Nerf experience in Singapore and in Manchester and also in Garden State and in New Jersey. And when we create this experience, a lot of interesting learning. Because Nerf have been a blaster that is for kids to play a toy alone for individual use. And when we put into an attraction, so first of all is our understanding is because they use the dots, right? And when we are doing a permanent attraction, collecting dots is a very, very heavy workload on the operation side. And the dots, come on, is a sponge-made dots, right? So, how can we sense it to store it and all the things. So we decide on, okay, we work out together, let's make it like a laser beam and a laser sense kind of like experience thing. So we turn the first like design set, we turn a lot of those into a laser sense experience really. But it turned out that it's not that well received as we thought. We need to change it a bit as well. And why is that? Because for all the fans globally, the reason that they want to play Nerf is because of they kind of like having a very solid experience of having something shoots out from the blaster. And turn out that is a very important element. So at the end is on the experience wise, we haven't changed all the things because at the end laser there is some good side of it. We changed some of the experience back to the dots. We have a free play range area, and because kids they love to have Nerf, but they never have an idea on where they can play Nerf. Because I cannot play just here, right? I mean, I cannot play at home because my mother will go into school, right? So we provide area for them to have a free play range. So that is a very typical case on how we bump into some kind of issue on how to implement our brand and expectation of our fans and on the experience side and how we make the changes and at the end actually the result of it, I mean we can see a significant growth in sales, which means I mean we are doing the right thing.
Such a practical point, and I think it kind of reminds me of the amount of effort and support that a licensor gives to a licensee. It's a very collaborative effort. It isn't just you license an IP, you pay some money, and you go off and run, do anything you like. Kelly, are there any experiences or learnings that you're able to share with our audience related to this topic?
I think for us as design firms, I think it could be quite challenging for us to align the expectation between IP owner and our clients. And sometimes, you know, we have difficult conversation about who makes the final call. I think for us, you know, learning from there, we learn to have like a really good communicate strategy to make sure we constantly check in with each other and align the expectations with both parties. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, okay. Are we okay on time, Sean? So this was one of your examples, right, Kelly? Is there anything you want to share about this?
Yes, so we are right now working with Nickelodeons to, you know, roll out Nickelodeon playtimes. And we have our first locations already in Shenzhen, and we are now expanding to outside of China. Yes. And then you can see how we implement, you know, the IP into the overall experience.
So we just touched on this, my slowness on the slide change. So why don't we move to more positive topics in terms of measuring success. So Kelly, from your perspective, with your FEC now open in China, and you're now launching new ones across Southeast Asia, how are you measuring success as it relates to, was it worth licensing an IP in the first place?
Yes, definitely. So right now our company, we have created, built, and operated 3 IP themed play centers. And basically, it took us years and to test it out all the different formats. And right now we have the right formats to, you know, expand of outside of, you know, China already. And yes, using the right IP for sure is one of our core success factors because, you know, as I said, our local partner is easier to get, like, you know, the premium locations. and also, getting the investment in place and etc. So, and to answer your other questions, for us, success is to be able to create a funds and repeatable experience for our audience. And of course, equally important is to help our partner to achieve that finance success. That's for sure.
So what kept me up at night a lot when I was working for a licensor is how do you find good partners? And secondly, how do you scale? Because financial is not just from a licensee perspective, the licensor also has to make money. So is that relatable for you, Natalie? And what sort of things are you looking for in terms of success?
Yeah, I think Kelly has mentioned the most important thing. I mean, for us, there is free aspect. I want to say, at the end, the most important piece is the financial success. So, I mean, financial success is not about Hasbro getting the license fee. I'm talking about the attraction project alone is a financial success. Because at the end, if it is not financially, sustainable, it's going to be closed. And I mean, for a licensing point of view, it's an impact for the brand as well, right? So for this, I mean, licensor and licensee very aligned on that. We need to make sure the project is financially successful. But apart from it, we also measure from two other aspects. One is on a consumer point of view. So we regularly check on, all the like Google's or other platforms on the scoring for that attraction. So both us and the licensees, we will look into the scoring and see whether normally our standard is like 4 out of 5 or like 50% of the satisfactory. It's kind of like safe. But if below that, we will have special meeting to discuss on what's the feedbacks from the consumer. Any bad feedbacks that in particular we need to make some adjustment on either the operation side, or maybe it's because of the design, there is some design fault, right? So this is the consumer piece. This is something that we monitor regularly. And the third piece is from our end, we also, because we want to make sure that all the quality-wise, the experience is having a good maintenance as well, right? So every year we will have a QA review together with the licensee to make sure that all the decoration and all the hardware thing is maintained in good shape. So we do have a list, like we discuss together whether that is something that we need to review or not.
And you've already touched on sustaining the business and how licensor supports licensee. I mean, ultimately, if the licensee is not successful, the licensor is not going to be successful. And the last thing anybody wants to see is the closure of a venue, because not only does the business have lost money, but also it's a brand risk as well for the licensor. And so I've always thought of it like a marriage. You are in it for the long term. A lot of these deals are multiple years. So from a sustaining the business perspective, as an IP owner, how do you support the long-term success and sustainability of your licensing partners beyond year one? You touched on it's complicated and a success already just to open, but then beyond that, what sort of things do you do to help?
Yeah, so I think I just mentioned a bit about the sustainability. I mean, just having some immediate launch or marketing announcement will help your attraction. I think apart from it is at the end for the sustainability side. For me, I will see it in this way. Apart from those marketing launch, it's whether from a licensing point of view, we have other joint marketing effort that can be provided to do with your attraction regularly. This is very important. So for instance, it's for Hasbro, because I always say to my partners, I mean, today, even if I do not have the idea to help in promoting your attraction, I still need to do a lot of marketing effort in promoting my toy sales. So day to day, you go to every toy shop, you will see my brand in the toy shop. This is another way of brand exposure, rather than, just a movie launch in a particular year. So in that sense, that is a very sustainable brand awareness in the market. And every year we need to do like marketing program to promote all those toys as well. So why not every year we have some major toy launch at your attraction, because you are my partner, right? So in that sense, actually, there is a synergy that is being created on the marketing effort side. So I think this is the kind of like sustainability effort that you should, from the licensing side, you should seek from licensor. And from licensor side, we should have the mentality to work with the licensing.
Such a valid point. And when you think of things like family entertainment centers, you're really looking for repeat visitors, right? And nowadays, consumers are spoiled for choice for IP. And so, Kelly, when you work with an IP, whether it be Hasbro or with your Nickelodeon IP, it's a permanent attraction, right? And what sort of things are you doing to keep it fresh, to make sure that you keep your repeat visitors engaged and interested in coming back?
Great questions. I think first, when we are on the design stage, we make sure we leave some room for us to be able to upgrade the facility and the attractions a few years later. And second, we do refresh our entertainment program every year. And third, we do have seasonal activities throughout the whole year. So every time when the visitor comes, it will be something different to them.
Excellent. So before we go to some questions from our audience here today, maybe just some final thoughts before we wrap up. What's one tip you would give to a first-time licensee? When I walk around here, it feels like licensing is quite new to a lot of our audience. And maybe we start with you first. What's one tip?
I would say make sure you hire the right person, experienced teams or a consultant to help you to plan and execute the project. Because IP theme entertainment projects are very particular. It takes someone to have years of experience to be able to plan and execute it properly. So, and to maximize that IP values and to avoid pitfalls that is going to cost you a lot of time and investments.
How about yourself, Natalie? Any final thoughts for anybody, particularly first-time licensees?
First-time licensee, I would say, do think about, before you find an IP, do think clearly about your objectives, as detailed as possible. And also your proposition of your product first, and then go to IP. Keep an open mind. Do not need to think about, oh, this year there is a particular IP that is super popular, then you must get the IP. Don't think in that way. Think about your project first, and then go into the market to seek for different IP, and you might get a more satisfying answer from that.
Very valid point. Think long term, not just short term. Right? Natalie, Kelly, thank you very much for your time. Open to questions from anybody?
Thanks, Aaron.
Questions? You got any questions?
I
You might grab a microphone.
Okay, I won't make this a difficult one. Thanks very much for your sharing. I think it's been very informative. So I guess we've heard a lot about licensing and so on, right? But we haven't really talked about the model. So if somebody's very new to licensing, how does the contract work? How is it structured? What sort of things do people need to be aware of when they're entering into a license agreement?
Oh, it's kind of like a licensing 101 section. Okay, so basically, what we need is a kind of like a proposal and an idea of what you want to do, and then we have that discussion on whether our IP is, but all in all is, after we identify what sort of IP fit, we will go into really a contract. So from the top line, I would say it's all about we align on what we are going to work together and we sign a contract. So in the licensing agreement, there is several core things that we need to touch on for every licensor. We need to talk about what brand to use. Definitely what brands we use, right? And then how to use those brands. Either it's put on an arcade machine for your machine alone, or it's talking about the whole FEC, it's pretty much the IP. So what is the rights? And then the third one is the time frame. Think about your arcade machine. If you get like a transformer to do our arcade machine, then are we going to let you to do it like 10 years or just 1 year? So this is totally different, right? And one important point that you might be very interested in is whether there is some exclusivity being involved and in certain territory, right? Having an exclusivity in China alone or having an exclusivity globally that allows you to be the only transformer arcade machine is a totally different two things. So we need to have, of course, we can consider that there is some kind of fees and cost, opportunity cost being considered at the back end as well. So this is more like a negotiation thing. And I would say is, and then it comes down to, some of the things that we need to talk about is the renewal. How long we are going to evaluate the status of those machines and we need to renew it, and how are we going to do the marketing, whether there is some kind of marketing commitment. So all this we are being put inside the contract.
And maybe just add to what Natalie's saying in relation to the business model. It kind of depends on what it is. If I think about some of the exhibitors today, they have arcade machines. Typically it would be a percentage of royalties of their sales, and there would be a minimum guarantee tied to that on an annual basis. For smaller things, it's pretty straightforward. You just get a cut of that. If it's larger, then it's a slightly deeper, broader discussion. Again, very much a royalty base with minimum guarantees. Good question.
Could I ask a question of Natalie, Kelly, and Eric? From your experience, especially in the early years of finding operators that are appropriate to represent your brand, have there been mistakes where you went, oh my God, I wish we didn't sign that contract with that operator? And what types of things might make the brand cringe?
I'll kick off while they negotiate who chats next. I think the biggest learning I've had, at least from working for a licensor, is you've got to spend the time at the beginning to get to know each other. It literally is like a marriage. You don't just jump straight into it. If you're lucky, sure. Love at first sight. Most of the time it isn't like that. And so get to know each other, get to learn the process from the licensor perspective, get to see the site, get to know the licensee, and only then can you then start to lay a path to success.
Yeah, I want to say a very fair comment on sometimes I do have moments that I'm super regret, and then but at the same time I do encounter situation that is the licensee side get to regret as well. So I do think that is a matrix of a mismatch in expectation. And back to what Eric has been mentioned about, I think that kind of communication and that's why the comment that I gave on, you need to think about as a licensee, first time for you to get an IP, you just really think about why you want to get an IP first. And you need to communicate very, very clearly to the IP owner as well, because from the IP owner side, just step into our shoes. I want to, at the end, I want to make a very successful brand experience, and I will be very, very picky on the development, on the thing that is totally, ideally, perfectly putting all the IP in it. And because I'm not the one to build it up or invest in it, and maybe sometimes we lose track on whether on a cost-wise, is making sense. It doesn't mean that we do not care about whether it's financially feasible or not. As I said, financially feasible and success is an important point for us. But it's more on because we as a brand owner, we're more focused on the brand side, and we rely on our partner who is an expert in operation. They will tell us on, okay, over budget or not. So they need to voice it up, right? So this kind of communication is crucial. If not having that communication before, which I encountered some of the case, that leads to the problem of, okay, from my end is I'm so regret to work with them because at the end they just say we do not have the budget, and they might consider to give up on using the IP, right? And on the licensing side, they just think they want to get an IP just for the marketing noise only. But they doesn't realize that actually if they want to do a successful film, the IP thing, actually there should be more involvement and investment on the resources side. So yeah.
I think for us, and from my experience, that is sometimes the licensee do underestimate the time and effort to get the design approved and to put that storyline in to the gameplay, for example, and then it could be like years of delays. I think that make us regret on the collaborations.
I do want to make a final point. I think patience is super important because how you start is how you finish, and it's such a frustration to see so much money wasted in this industry on projects that are IP based. They have very good chance of success, but for whatever reason, and there's many reasons, it hasn't been successful, and that's millions and millions and millions of dollars that has gone to waste. So definitely take the time out of the beginning to make sure you set yourself up for success.
And I just want to make one more comment. Is that back to the advice for like the first time, if you are getting the license for the first time, especially on those IP games. I think do ask yourself, you want to get an IP because of marketing point of view or product development point of view. That is a very, very important point that you need to think about, and that leads to what sort of IP you should get.
Any more questions? Front row. I think that wraps us up for today then. Thank you for hearing us out. Thank you Natalie, thank you Kelly for your time.
Thank you for having us.
For everyone.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Kelly. We will gather back here in the forum area for a presentation at 11:30 focusing on mascots. So if you've seen mascots and also its relationship to IP and how you can invest and maximize the potential with mascots, we'll see you back here in the forum area.